Satyamev Jayate. So in this video, we are going to discuss how India got the name Bharat. Or let's discuss what is the origin of this particular word Bharat. So let's explore. Now the term Bharat is derived from these three sources. The first source is from an ancient Rigvedic tribe called as Bharata. The second one is from a legendary king mentioned in Mahabharata. And the third one is from an ancient legendary king called as Bharat mentioned in Vishnu Purana. Okay, so let me just repeat this again. So these are the three resources from where we got the reference Bharat. The first one is from an ancient Rigvedic tribe called as Bharata. The second one is from the king Bharata mentioned in Mahabharata. And the third one is the king Bharata mentioned in Vishnu Purana. So these are the three resources from we got this particular term Bharat. So let's explore the first one, that is from an ancient Rigvedic tribe called as Bharata. Now to understand this particular tribe, that is Bharata, let's understand Indo-European languages. Okay, let's understand Indo-European languages. As you can see, the Indo-European language is divided into two parts, Indo-Iranian and European. Let's understand each of them. Let's go to Indo-Iranian. Now these languages are something we Indians are quite familiar with. As you can see, you have Hindi, then you have Urdu, Marathi, Konkani, Awadhi, Bengali, Nepali, Punjabi, Sindhi, Kurdish and Persian. Most of them like Punjabi, Bengali, Hindi, Awadhi, Urdu, Marathi and Konkani are actively used in India. Some languages like Kurdish and Persian are located in the Iranian sphere, right? So there is a relationship between all these languages. The common ancestor is Sanskrit. Many of the words are from Sanskrit. So these are the Indo-Iranian languages. So let's explore where these languages are concentrated, right? So as you can see in front of you, this is the map of the whole world. And you have the Indo-Iranian languages. As you can see, this is the whole of the continent, and you have Kurdish, Persian, Punjabi, Hindi, Bengali, Marathi and Gujarati. Pretty much these languages stretches from Iraq to parts of northern India and even to Bangladesh, right? So this is the spread of the Indo-Iranian languages. Now let's have a look into the second one, that is the European languages, right? So these are the European languages. You have Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, French, English, German, Dutch and Greek. Actually there are a lot many, but these are the most important European languages that we both know of, right? So these are the languages. So what about them? Now let's explore the territorial area where these languages are actively spoken. So these are those areas, right? Pretty much the whole of Europe and parts of Russia. As you can see in the west, we have Spanish, Portuguese, English. Then in the middle, we have Greek, Italian, German, Dutch, French and Russian towards the east. So these are the European languages, right? So we have learned about the Indo-Iranian languages and we have learned about the European languages. So what if I tell you there is some kind of similarity between the Indo-Iranian languages as well as the European languages? So that is why I have marked all of them in black. There is a similarity between European languages and Indo-Iranian languages. Despite vast difference, there are some words that are actively used in English which is common to the words used in Sanskrit or Hindi. Let's explore them, right? So for example, this is the word mother, right? Now as you can see, it is somewhat similar to the Sanskrit word mater or mother or ma, right? Then we have the Latin word mater. In French we have mère, madre and mother, right? So as you can see, the Sanskrit word is somewhat similar to the English, French and the Spanish word. Now let's go to the second one, that is father. So as you can see, the pronunciation of father, that is Pitar, is commonly used in French, Spanish, and even Latin. Okay? So my point is very clear. Let's say UK. UK is significantly far away from India. But the language that is used is somewhat similar to the language used in India. There is some kind of relationship. To explain you better, let me show you the family tree, right? So once again, this is the family tree. In front of you, you have once again the Indo-Iranian language, okay? In the left side, you have the Indo-Iranian language. And in the right side, you have the European languages, right? Now, there are many words which are common to both of these language trees, right? So the reason is there is a common language called as the Indo-European language, right? Indo-European language. Let me repeat it again. There are many loan words or many common words that is used in the Indo-Iranian language, which is common to the European language. So that means there is a common ancestor, right? There is a common ancestor. So those are known as the Indo-European languages. So now let's learn about the common ancestor. So we are going back into the past, deep into the past. Let's say 3300 BC. This is way before the birth of Jesus Christ. And here you have the early 4 civilizations. The first one is the early Sumerian civilization. The second one is the early Egyptian civilization. The third one is our own early Harappan civilization or early Indus Valley civilization. Then we have the early Chinese civilization. So these are the 4 civilizations. Okay, the 4 civilizations of the Bronze Age, the 4 civilizations which ruled the Bronze Age. We will discuss about these civilizations in the later parts of our history chapters, right? Now, let me show you one more interesting thing. So, as you can see, we have a gentleman here. So, this is a artificial reconstruction of a boy that was found in the Rakhi side of Harappa. So this is how a Harappan looked like, the early Harappan looked like. So this is a artificial intelligence reconstruction how a boy during that period in early Harappa looked like. Okay, so just giving you an example, right? So what's next? Now there is an important thing you have to understand. These civilizations grew, right? When these civilizations grew, along with this civilization, there was a culture. Now, there's a difference between culture and civilization. Culture is pretty much primitive, right? Civilization means they are a level above culture. In cultures, they are just focused on farming and pottery and all those stuff. But in civilization, they have gone beyond agriculture and pottery. They have gotten into art and architecture. They have gotten into trade with other civilization. So as you can see, Egyptian, Sumerian, Harappan and Chinese, these are civilizations. However, at the top you have a culture called as Yamanaya culture. This particular culture is the forefather of the European as well as the Indo-Aryan languages. This particular culture, Yamanaya culture. And as you can see, there is a gentleman, a bald gentleman. So this is again a facial reconstruction of the skeleton that was found in Yamanaya, or the parts where the Yamanaya culture was located. This particular people of Yamanaya culture, they were focused on farming, agriculture, hunting. Now there are few similarities between the cultures of Sumerian and Harappan with Yamanaya culture, but you should understand that Yamanaya culture were more into invasion. They were focused on horses. They knew how to work with horses, and that is why they spread their cultures into many territories. Let's go forward in time. Let's say 2700 BC. As you can see, the Yamanaya culture has spread towards the west, right? As you can see, it has gone a little more into the west. Now it is covering parts of France and Germany. So it has also reached the parts of Czechoslovakia and all. Okay, so it has covered parts of Czechoslovakia. On the other hand, if you look down, you have the Egyptian, Sumerian, Harappan and Chinese. They have grown. Now, right now, these cultures, especially the Harappan culture, is in the most mature form, right? It's in the peak period, where the Harappan civilization was at the peak period. During 3300 BC, it was in a growing stage. Right now, 2700 BC, it's at the mature phase, the peak phase. Awesome. Okay, so as you can see, you have the Yamnai culture and it has spread. Now let's go forward again in time. Now this is 2400 BC. The Yamnai culture has again spread to parts of, Portugal and Spain. It has also reached parts of UK. Awesome. Okay, now comes the interesting part. 1800 BC. The Yamnai culture has spread to the parts of Central Asia. The Yamnai culture in Central Asia is known as the Sinhasta culture and the Andronova culture. These two cultures are quite important for Indian history. From Sinhasta and Andronova, the people who came to India are known as the Rigvedic Indo-Aryans. Right? Okay, so as you can see now, the civilizations, that is the Egyptian, Sumerian, Harappan and the Chinese, have declined. From 3300 BC, it was the rise. Okay, it was growing. Around 2700 BC, it reached the mature phase. Now it's in the declining phase. On the other hand, the Yamnai culture, okay, it's a culture, not a civilization. The Yamnai culture is growing. It is spreading out to different parts of the world. Okay, so we have reached at that point 1800 BC. So what's next? Now, as you can see, 1700 BC. The Yamnai culture has again spread. However, many of the civilization, the Bronze Age civilization, are on decline. Like this, it's on decline. 1700 BC, the Harappan civilization has split into three parts. It's in a declining phase. Right? So what's next? Let's explore. Now we are going to focus on the parts of the Indian subcontinent. We have the Indian part. Okay, as you can see, you have the Indian part, Kashmir and parts of Punjab and Haryana, UK. You have those parts, and then we have pretty much the whole of Pakistan and pretty much the whole of Afghanistan, right? And at the top, right? At the top, you have Andronova culture, right? At the top, you have the Andronova culture in the left. So this is where the Rigvedic Aryans came from. Okay. So now we are going to understand the geography of the Indian subcontinent. This is important to understand because there are few passes that you have to know, because without these passes, the Rigvedic Aryans wouldn't have reached India, right? So let's explore them. So as you can see, you have the Hindu Kush mountains. And as you can see, at the north of the Hindu Kush mountains, it basically acts like a boundary between Afghanistan and Pakistan, right? And one more important thing that you have to know is that it pretty much runs along the entirety of Pakistan, like it's their spine, the spinal cord of Pakistan, right? It separates pretty much in the northern part, it separates Afghanistan and Pakistan, the Hindu Kush mountains. Now remember, these mountains has some passes through which the Western people, or let's say the Indo-Aryans or people from the western side, can enter into India or Pakistan. So another important thing that you have to know is these are the Himalayas, right? We are familiar with Himalayas, so there's nothing to worry about. These are the Himalayas. So what's next? There is an important thing that you have to know. Okay, as you can see, this is the path through which these Aryans are going to come. Now, as you can see, you have a small spot there, okay? There's a small group, not small group, quite a big group of Rigvedic Aryans present near Afghanistan, okay? As you can see, you have this particular group. They are going to reach India through this particular pass. So they have moved forward around 1550 BC. They have reached the Hindu Kush mountains and near the Khyber Pass. They are trying to squeeze in, right? And by 1500 BC, they have reached the Indian subcontinent. They have reached India. They were already in Indian subcontinent. Now they have reached India. So what's next? Now there is another important geographical thing that you have to know about, the rivers. Let's explore them. So these are our rivers, okay? You are already familiar with this particular river, that is the Indus River. Rest, the Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Bhees, Satluj and Saraswati, they are its tributaries, okay? There is the whole Indus River that is flowing along. And then we have the Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Bhees, Satluj and Saraswati. Now, a very important thing to note that all these rivers are mentioned in Rigveda, right? All these rivers are mentioned in Rigveda. There is a very important aspect that you have to know right now. Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Bhees and Satluj are still present in India as well as in Pakistan. However, the river Saraswati, it has just simply vanished. Many geologists agree that Saraswati river does exist, but it's flowing underground. So I have marked Saraswati to point out a very important aspect. Let me show you that. So this particular region that is marked in yellow, it's known as Sapta Sindhu. Sapta Sindhu. Sindhu means river or ocean, okay? Sindhu means river or ocean. Sapta means 7. Sapta Sindhu means 7 rivers. 7 rivers. Sapta Sindhu means 7 rivers. And as you can see, the whole area, okay, the whole area mentioned in yellow, marked in yellow, is the region where the whole Sapta Sindhu river flows. As you can see, you can find the whole 7 rivers along that particular region marked in yellow. You can find the Indus River, the Jhelum River, the Chenab River, the Ravi River, the Bhees River, the Satluj River, and also the Saraswati River. A very fertile and important region. This is where the Rigveda was actually composed, the region of Sapta Sindhu. So what's next? Now the Rigvedic Aryans reached in many different, tribes. They came in multiple waves, okay? They came in multiple waves. The first wave arrived around, let's say, 1550 BC. From then, there came many different waves. And they established small farming communities across these Sapta Sindhu rivers. So as you can see, these are those cultures, the Rigvedic cultures located around the Sapta Sindhu region. Okay, some of them goes even far up to Afghanistan. Now, there is an important thing that you have to know. All these are small kingdoms or cultures, small tribes, but essentially Indo-Aryans. Now, you have to focus on the red part, the place where the Bharata tribe is located, right? Bharata tribe is essentially located on the eastern part, right? The eastern part, and is located near the most fertile regions, the part where it covers the most of the Vedic rivers, right? Now, the thing is, maybe due to the lack of resources or the overexploitation of the resources back in those times, it was water and land. Bharata tribe actually expanded a lot. However, the rest of these tribes didn't like it. So what happens next? These tribes form an alliance against the Bharata tribe, right? And the Bharata tribe was led by this man called as King Sudas. King Sudas led the Bharata tribe against these 10 tribes, rest of the 9 tribes. And this battle that happened between, these 10 tribes is known as the Battle of the 10 Kings. It was essentially Bharata versus the rest of the 9 tribes. And what happened? Pretty much all the 9 tribes ganged up against the Bharata tribe, which was led by King Sudas. However, for some reason, the Bharata tribe defeated all of them. I don't know how it happened, but Rigveda mentioned there was a clever ploy made by the King Sudas of Bharata tribe, and that is why they were able to defeat all of them. A very interesting thing that you can learn from Rigveda. So what's next? Now, Bharata tribe essentially absorbed all of them into their empire, their own kingdom. King Sudas was pretty much quite benevolent and he forgave everyone. And he later asked all of them to join and make a bigger kingdom, a bigger polity. And this essentially became the first Indian polity called as the Kuru kingdom. Now, the people in Kuru were quite happy with King Sudas. And they started taking the identity called as the Bharata tribe. All the tribes were dissolved and the Bharata tribe became the central tribe. And maybe this is why the Bharata tribe became legendary, that its name became synonymous with India. So now let's focus on the king Bharata mentioned in Mahabharata. Let's focus on him. So this is the King Bharata mentioned in Mahabharata, right? So what about him? So as you can see in a gist, this is Bharata's empire. All right, let's know few facts about this guy. Now, one of the most important things that you have to know is that there are 2 lineages in Indian history. The first one is Suryavanshi and the second one is Chandravanshi. Now this guy, Bharata, King Bharata, is from the lunar dynasty or Chandravanshi. He's a Chandravanshi dynasty. He's from Chandravanshi dynasty. And he became the Chakravarti emperor. Now the most important thing that you have to know is he is an ancestor of Pandavas, Kauravas, Brihadartha and Jarasandha. So most likely you have already learned about Pandavas and Kauravas by, reading Mahabharata or watching TV serials like Mahabharata. But you should also know about, there was another clan called as Brihadartha and also another clan called as Jarasandha. So this guy was pretty much the ancestor of Pandavas, Kauravas, Brihadartha and Jarasandha. Now the question is how he was born. Now for exams like UPSC, we don't have to go into much details, just you have to remember this. He was the son of Dushyanta and Shakuntala. Alright, Dushyanta and Shakuntala. That's all. Now how Dushyanta and Shakuntala meet, how they got married is none of the concern for UPSC. Alright, so now he's also mentioned in Abhijananta Shakuntalam. Now remember this, he's of course mentioned in Mahabharata, but he's also mentioned in Kalidasa's book called as Abhijanta Shakuntalam, right? Okay, so pretty much you already know this. The reason why we have made this video, why we are learning this, is because there is a reason that this guy inspired the Indian subcontinent to be named after him. He earned this title of Digvijaya Chakravartin for this big empire. He had a vast empire. All right. Now, he is said to have ruled for 27,000 years. That is a bit ridiculous, but as per the myths, he has ruled for 27,000 years, which ideally doesn't fit into the frame of Indian history. Let's say he has ruled, but he was also cursed by Muni Durvasa. Okay, the Muni who cursed him, the sage who cursed him was Muni Durvasa, right? And he had a son called as Bhumyanam. Okay. Now the thing about Bhumyanu is that nothing much. There are no accounts. There are no books, or even we have books on Bhumyanu, but the details are actually pretty skewed and shady. So we don't know much about Bhumyanu. All right. So now let's focus on the third part, that is Bharata, King Bharata mentioned in Vishnu Purana. So who is this guy? Now this guy may be the same guy that is mentioned in Mahabharata, the same Bharata mentioned in Mahabharata, or he can be a completely different guy. Now Vishnu Purana mentions a line about Bharata. The land north of the ocean and south of the Himalayas is called Bharat, where the descendants of Bharata reside. All right. So according to him, as you can see, this is the Hindu Kush and these are the Himalayas. So pretty much from Himalayas to the ocean, that is where the descendants of this man Bharata lived. All right. So we have already learned about Bharata mentioned in Mahabharata. So this guy is Bharata mentioned in Vishnu Purana. Awesome. So what's next? Now we have to focus on a very important topic, that is the earliest inscription that mentions about King Bharata, right? So the earliest inscription comes from Orissa. Now this guy is King Kharvela. King Kharvela was a big ruler in parts of Kalinga. During those time, parts of Orissa was known as Kalinga, right? Now he commissioned a temple, and around the outskirts of that temple there is a cave. Okay, there is a cave, and in this particular cave there is a line about Bharata, okay. So this particular inscription is known as Hathi Gumpha inscription of King Kharvela, right? Now this is found in Orissa. Now here Bharatvarsha or Bharata's empire is used in a geographical sense. Now remember, this Bharatvarsha is quite limited in North India. Basically, he says Bharatvarsha is only the western part of the Ganges plain. Western part of Ganges plain, basically the west of Magadha. We will learn in detail, but essentially this is the area he mentions, okay? And as you can see, this is particularly the inscription that talks about Bharatvarsha or Bharata's descendants or Bharata's empire. Right? So this is the actual epigraphical evidence or inscription that mentions about Bharata. Right? So let's wrap it up.